Speaker tonight. He is the founder and president of the Florida Student Global AIDS Campaign. He travels the state of Florida speaking to both partisan and nonpartisan organizations and at college campuses and religious groups, talking about the importance of investing in sex education and HIV/AIDS awareness, while encouraging young people to get involved in their communities and their government. Aaron serves on the Bureau of Speakers of the Democratic Women's Club of Florida and is a member of the Democratic Women's Club of Central Pinellas and the Florida LGBTA Democratic Caucus, as well as a financial advisor to the local committee of the Democratic Women's Club of Florida. Aaron also spends much of his time fundraising for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society and working with children who are currently living with and battling cancer at the Stephen D. Hessenfeld Children's Center for Cancer and Blood Disorders at NYU Guns Medical Center in New York City. Aaron is currently a surrogate on behalf of the presidential campaign of Hillary Clinton and organizes events and volunteer teams and organizers for Hillary for America across the state of Florida. He also travels the state of Florida speaking about legislation that has been lobbied and passed and voted against in both the Florida State Senate and Florida House of Representatives, with a focus on children and gun laws, of which he is also a surrogate on behalf of Moms Demand Action for Common Gun Sense in America. Aaron.
Thank you. I have this somewhere around here. You can pass them around. I don't know where to put them. Oh, there they are. If you didn't get one of these, please take one. I'll talk a little briefly about Moms Demand Action for Common Gun Sense in America, which, as you will be able to see, was founded in 2012, shortly after the tragic shooting incident in Newtown, Connecticut, of course, at Sandy Hook Elementary. By Shannon Watson, it encourages both Democrats and Republicans and the local and state and federal level of government to step up and come together in unity in trying to combat gun violence in America. So, of course, good evening to you all, and thank you so much for being here tonight at the Sarasota Democratic Women's Club. I, of course, want to thank Sandra McClinton for asking me to be here to speak with all of you tonight about domestic violence in the United States of America, as well as gun violence and how it pertains to right here in the Sunshine State. I also want to thank Maureen for being here. If you get to know her, she really is. She's like a second mom to me in a lot of ways when we joke about that. She's nurtured me so much in all of the traveling and the speaking that I've done. I've spoken in over 30-something counties in this state. I've been all over. I go to the Panhandle even. I go to some of the reddest areas. I will tell you, especially having spoken all over the state about this woman that's running for president named Hillary Clinton, I have a very large Hillary Clinton following in the villages. In the villages, right? You would think they were Democrats. Wow, they live there. But there's a population in the villages of over 133,000 people. About 32,000 people there are actually registered Democrats. So you can maintain full votes from that. That's really impressive. So of course, yes, I thank Maureen for being here tonight from Highlands County. And as Sandra was saying, my name is Aaron Darr, and I am a member of the Democratic Women's Club of Florida. It was actually the first Democratic club that I joined when I first moved to the state of Florida about 2 years ago. You know, I often travel the state of Florida speaking to women, seniors and veterans, teachers and students, police officers, firefighters, emergency responders, children and millennials, partisan and nonpartisan organizations, civic and religious institutions, as well as so many others who are either unemployed or working and living on the minimum wage, trying to fight their way into the middle class. Throughout my travel, All over this state, one thing has become very clear. That's that we must move forward the ideas that help to shape the fabric of our lives, while strengthening the basic bargain of America and what we stand for as Americans and who we are as Floridians. Now, you're all Democrats, I'm assuming, in this room. So you already know what that is. It's the idea that no matter who you are, where you live, and yes, Supreme Court of the United States, even who you love, that if you work hard and you play by the rules, you deserve the opportunities. You deserve the opportunities, the same God-given opportunities as anyone else to make a good life for yourself, your children, and your families, while uplifting others in your community right here in Sarasota County out of poverty and always moving forward to the middle class. You know, whether it be protecting and strengthening Social Security and Medicaid, but fighting for and protecting the veterans' benefits for those who have served so valiantly in our nation, advocating for and nurturing the early minds of children in their early childhood years while teaching them the importance of healthy eating, tolerance, arts, and physical education with a strong focus on STEM projects, especially for little girls, protecting our environment and the Everglades and the wildlife here in Florida and our precious, you have to have it, water. Of course, all of that, doing what is in the best interest, of course, of teachers and students, and ensuring that we care for our seniors and the most vulnerable in our communities, as well as putting at the forefront of policy making and decision making the idea that human rights are essential in any and all decisions that can be made by the local, state, and federal branches of government. You know, whether it be protecting and advocating for the rights of LGBT people or women's issues, like we hear so much of it recently, Planned Parenthood. Because, and this is true, 1 in 5 women at some point in their lifetime are going to go to a Planned Parenthood for some kind of service. Of course, whether that be for birth control, STD and HIV/AIDS screenings, pap smears for ovarian and cervical cancer, breast screenings for breast cancer, we need to make sure that we are protecting and that we are standing strong with Planned Parenthood. You know, in my travels, I have talked with so many people from all walks of life, Republican, Democrat, Independent, and even the yellow people, the Libertarians, because there's a large Libertarian party here in the state of Florida, who often say to me that they just don't understand that in the state of Florida, how we have a state legislature and a governor by the name of Rick Scott, who advocate for many of the policies in which they are signing into law, which they do not like, but they attack their households and their economic and financial futures as families and the kinds of economic gains and wins that everyday Floridians deserve. And of course, I remind all of these individuals who sometimes say, well, it wasn't a presidential election, I sat this one out. I remind them that bad politicians are elected by good people who do not vote, which is why in 2016, we have a chance to take back the State House and the State Senate, these county commission races, these mayor's offices, and these local levels of government, whether it be a city commission or a city council seat. We have to take any and all of these seats back and put them into the Democrat category. And we can do all of this by ensuring that we elect another Democrat as president in 2016, whoever she is. You know, with all that we see that's going on, again, just this past session in the State House and in the State Senate, we see many elected individuals who are bought and paid for by special interests, the lobbyists, and but who else? The National Rifle Association. These elected individuals have their hands in the cookie jar of wealth and opportunity to do what is, in their view, right, and not doing what we know is right. And that's implementing universal background checks on any and all gun sales in the state of Florida and all across our nation. You know, many of these individuals do not realize that in the choices that they make, they are affecting children in classrooms, They are affecting students on college campuses. They are affecting patrons in movie theaters and in grocery stores. And heartbreakingly enough, we just saw this in South Carolina, in Charleston, South Carolina. They are affecting people in their place of worship and targeting those individuals, whether it be because of their religion or their race. And that, mind you, in Charleston, South Carolina, would not have happened had we had a background check for that young man that decided that he was going to go out there and commit a domestic act of terrorism. Because that is exactly what he did to those people in that church, and that is wrong. But had we had background checks, and had Nikki Haley, the Republican governor of South Carolina, not been hypocritical and actually supported H.R. 1565, which shortly after Sandy Hook, I lobbied that in Pennsylvania, in New York, and in Arkansas. Many people in Arkansas, you'd be surprised. And it's true. This is an NRA statistic, actually. 9 out of 10 gun owners support common sense background checks. And I remind you that, and this is one of the most powerful ways to combat anyone that disagrees with us in this room, that we agree with background checks. If a United States veteran has to submit to a background check to be able to carry a firearm to serve our country, for this person to disagree with you and to have that freedom of speech, what makes that person think that they are any better than a United States veteran to not have to submit to the same kind of background check that he or she did? Usually shuts me up. Just saying from my own personal experience. You know, we need to make sure that we are doing anything and everything that we can to implement these things, like, again, H.R. 1565, which would have not only implemented universal background checks on any and all gun sales, but it also, interestingly enough, would have made mandatory guns and gun shows. There are gun shows all the time because I'm on the NRA's email list to see what they're doing, what's going on. Dade County, Miami, all the time, every month. Big gun conventions down there. It would make mandatory tags that if you bring a gun in this gun show, there's going to be a tag on it. And that gun better have that same tag or a tag on it when it goes out. And if not, you're not taking it home with you. That is so important. You know, these politicians, many who are predominantly, and I hate to be partisan in saying this, but this is public record. If you go on their voting record, they're predominantly Republican. They're making our communities unsafe because they refuse to take their hands out of that cookie jar and stand up and push back against the special interests, against the lobbyists, and of course, the National Rifle Association. And whether it be Columbine, Aurora, Sandy Hook, or Lafayette, Louisiana, or Charleston, South Carolina, we must use our freedoms of speech like I am today and not be afraid to go out and talk about gun legislation and common sense gun reform in the state of Florida. You know, I encourage you to go to Moms Demand Action, go to their website, read up on them. You can actually start a chapter here in your state and in your county where you can go and they'll give you the material, they'll send you everything that you need, they'll send you boxes, they'll send you t-shirts, everything. I've seen people that have done it in Tampa. And you can go and you can lobby people like the House representative that you have here in Sarasota. Representative Greg Stubbe, District 73. By the way, I was researching, and I already knew it because I read a lot, and I pay attention to what's going on in the State House and the State Senate. Many of these bills that are being passed just this past session, the big one, was sponsored by Greg. Yet the Republicans go ahead and reward him that bill was the first bill to be signed into law by Governor Scott last year. How these people get elected, again, it's good people that do not vote, and that is how we get some of these awful politicians. And I remind you, we are going to have a presidential election cycle, and we in this room, I'm sure, each and every single one of us remember Jeb Bush as governor. We're still suffering, especially many seniors and veterans and middle-class families and children and charter schools are suffering from the effects of Jeb Bush. And I can personally tell you that I will never, ever rest in ensuring that we never hear the words President Jeb Bush ever in our lifetime. And it's true, yeah. As we all know, violence just doesn't come in the forms of guns. It also comes in the form of domestic violence. But, going back to guns, we have stand your ground. We hear so much about that, especially with the Trayvon Martin case and George Zimmerman, and then Marissa Alexander, a black woman who spent quite a bit of time in jail because the Attorney General deemed it necessary that she be there, and she didn't even shoot anyone. She fired a warning shot at her husband, who had a history of beating her. You have that. You also have the authorization of an armed volunteer, mind you, who, and this is what drives me nuts, the Republicans here in the state house and the state legislature, they will tell you that they do not believe in background checks, but this is what kills me. You have House Bill 19 and you have Senate Bill 180, and they were both, the House bill was passed, it's gone through 3 committees in the state Senate. This would have had a principal or a superintendent at a school district where they would have been able to appoint a volunteer to come into your children or your grandchildren's school. And all they have to do is, guess what? They have to pass a background check. The Republicans are all about that background check, but for everyone else, no. But they want to have these individuals on a volunteer basis, as long as they can pass a background check. And the people that they're targeting to actually go and do this are veterans. Well, we had tally days earlier this year, which was with the Democratic Women's Club of Florida, and I went up to the man that sponsored this bill. I live in Pinellas County. He's not my state senator. I have Jack Lavala, but he's District 22. His name's Jeff Brandis. I call him the poster child for the NRA. And I told him, I said, well, you served in Iraq and Afghanistan, right? Well, of course, yeah, you know that about me. I said, all right, well, you're going after veterans. What are you doing to address post-traumatic stress disorder? What are you doing to do that in these job interviews? Well, that actually, that's not something we really can do, and even if it was, you like to think that veterans are good people. I said, well, Senator Brandis, it actually violates the Constitution. You're not allowed to discriminate against somebody because of their mental state or any kind of disability that they might have, including post-traumatic stress disorder. He had no comment for that. So you have that. And then, of course, you have the House Bill 4005 and the Senate Bill version of it 176, which both were passed and they are now into law. That as long as somebody is over the age of 21 years old and they have a valid Florida conceal and carry license in the state of Florida, they can on their college campus and in their classrooms have a gun on their person, or in their bag, or in their purse. That's crazy. I'm from Ohio, and I will tell you, from the time that I was in preschool all the way up to my senior year of high school, every year, and I believe it was sometime in May, we always had a day where we honored the tragic situation at Kent State University. Those young kids who were protesting against the Vietnam War. I knew that was so important. Guns do not belong on college campuses. Simple as that. Then, of course, you have the evacuation gun bill, which is the Senate bill version of it is 296 and the House bill version of it is 209. Guess what? It was also passed into law just last year, too. And that's that if in a time of natural emergency or disaster here in the state of Florida, which is likely to happen because I don't know if you've looked at a state map recently, but Florida is kind of surrounded by this thing called water. It is very, very dangerous to allow people that they don't have to have a conceal and carry license, they don't have to have any kind of permit. You can have any amount of ammunition or guns or artillery, militia, anything that you need. You're allowed to have all of that you want in a time of natural disaster. And you can take it into a shelter with you, no questions asked. Perfectly legal. The Republicans are focusing on this and bills like telling women that they have a 24-hour guilt period that we must inflict upon them for them to be able to make their own health care decisions. They're doing this because the Republicans do not have plans to fix the economy and to create jobs and to care for each and every single one of us in this room and our families. So instead they focus on what women can and cannot do with their bodies, and they focus on how they can make schools for children unsafe. That is so important. This is Sarasota County. Greg Stubbe, District 73. He is a part of all of this. All those bills that I just listed in the House bill versions of them, he voted for and he co-sponsored. Which one did he co-sponsor?
The guns on campus?
Yep, that was it.
It's nuts.
I went to school in New York City. I can't even imagine. I can't imagine.